And welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Gaming Gang channel. Thanks for joining me once again. Today, I am going to share my review of the Pinebox Texas Middle School box set for Savage Worlds Adventure Edition from Pinnacle Entertainment Group. This box set is available now. It carries an MSRP of $124.99. And of course, if you just want to get the hardcover core book, which clocks in at 208 pages, you can do so for an MSRP of $39.99, or just score the PDF alone over at DriveThruRPG for $19.99. All that said, let's swing on over to the other camera because here I've got the Pinebox Texas Middle School box set. Few things to mention before we jump on in. First of all, my friends over at Pinnacle Entertainment Group were kind enough to provide me with this review copy, but neither I nor anyone else affiliated with the Gaming Gang has received any other sort of compensation for me to share this review with you. These days, it's important you know that. Also, if you want a closer look at the pawns and archetype cards, bestiary cards, and Game Master screen, by all means, I definitely recommend check out my unboxing video. You'll get a far, far closer look at those items in that video than in this, because my main focus here is going to be on the core book as well as the adventure booklet that comes with the Game Master screen. Of course, there are some adventures that are included in this box set. So as a player, if your Game Master has picked this up, maybe they haven't started running it yet, maybe they're considering picking this up, by all means, I would recommend tune out, because even though I'm going to stay away from spoilers for the most part, there are going to be some spoilers simply as we flip on through. You don't want any of the surprises of the adventures ruined simply because you watch this video. Now, of course, if your Game Master is thinking about picking this box set up, by all means, let them know about this review so that way they can approach Pinebox Texas Middle School and make a far more informed buying decision. All right, let's jump on in. So I've taken a lot of this stuff outside the box just to make navigating this a lot quicker. But gotta say, the box is really nice. Got a really cool insert. Everything fits in very nicely. So want to point that out. There is also loads of stuff packed into that box. So we're going to get 25 bennies with various different pieces of artwork on them. And of course, yes, I know this isn't 25, but I'm just giving you an example of the bennies. Nice, thick, poker chip style bennies. Hold up really nicely. We get a set of dice, and our wild die actually has a game controller, has its wild side. I thought that was kind of cool. So we've got that. We have a dozen different archetypes. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that the players can't create their own archetypes, but we do have the various different cards here. And I will say that the various different tropes in these sorts of adventures are covered pretty nicely with these archetypes. If you're not familiar with Pinebox Texas Middle School, it is what we like to refer to as a kids on bikes sort of role-playing game. So your player characters are all youngsters. In this case, they're 6th to 8th graders, and give you a peek at some of these. These cards include attributes, skills, gear, hindrances, some details about the kids' families. So really nicely done. I love the artwork throughout too. Really nice and very uniform as well. So we also have bestiary cards. All of these creatures are featured in the adventures in the box set. So we've got all that, and then we've got the information about them here as well. Now, with Pinebox Texas Middle School, this is a little bit different than a lot of the kids on bikes role-playing games out there, such as Kids on Bikes and Tales from the Loop and such, because this is actually taking place in the modern day. So we're not looking at 1980s, 1990s nostalgia. So knowing that, and that most smaller kids do have cell phones these days. Something that's brought into the mix is the cell phone signal. So this is an urban horror sort of genre. This way, by having really spotty service in Pine Box, Texas, that will prevent the player characters when they get into trouble just simply jumping on the phone to call the authorities or their parents or going online and checking the internet to solve their problems. So we have these various different cards. I thought that was kind of cool too. Sadly, no action deck. In these box sets, I always like to see action decks, but we don't get one. We get a poster map of Pine Box, and then we also get the school. So this is the middle school here. This is also set in the same game world as East Texas University. I'll be very honest, I am not familiar with that setting really much at all outside of knowing that it's kind of a Buffy the Vampire Slayer sort of urban horror. Our good friend of the channel, the Madman, is kind of our resident Savage Worlds expert. And I do know that he ran an ETU campaign for quite a few years. And there's also been loads and loads of material released for that setting too. So it is pretty in depth. So this is Pine Box, Texas. So this is the same area, except in this case, the player characters are small kids. So we've got 4 really nice thick pawn sheets, punch boards, essentially. And of course, once again, all of these are featured in the adventures. Really nicely done. I will mention if you have plastic stands that you use for other pawn sets, I would certainly recommend them over using these little tabs. Honestly, I think the plastic stands will work better and probably preserve your pawns a bit longer than simply using these tabs that kind of slip on, but really nice and thick pawns here. We get a landscape game master screen with artwork from the setting. If I can actually get it open. There we go. Very nice. Very cool there. Okay, so we're going to dive on into the core book to start off with. So I'm going to actually zoom in a little bit so you can get a bit of a closer look. Let's dive in and get a closer look at the 208-page hardcover core book. Do want to make sure that you're aware that you must have the core rulebook for Savage Worlds Adventure Edition in order to use this. And I know some folks out there prefer to have just a standalone core book, sort of like we've seen with Pathfinder for Savage Worlds. But I do want to also point out that about half the page space in this book is devoted to a plot point campaign. So you are getting a lot of adventuring in this core book, unlike a lot of books out there where you might just get a short introductory adventure, sometimes just a 1 or 2 session one shot. That is not the case here. Now, something I really do like about Pine Box, Texas Middle School is that unlike other kids on bikes styled role playing games, it's not frowned upon to kill your player characters. So that's something that we've seen in other of these role playing games, even if they're horror role playing games where the protagonists happen to be grade school kids, like, say, Tales from the Loop. It is really frowned upon that the player characters can take a dirt nap. That is not the case here. And I like that because in a horror role playing game, you have to have that sort of danger to really bring home the horror. Now, once again, as I mentioned, this is in the East Texas University setting. So you don't actually need to have any knowledge of ETU because we will actually get a breakdown of the area. So we get some details about the town of Pine Box, which I really like. Of course, we'll get far more detail about the middle school because that's where the player characters are going to be spending a lot of their time. So the kids have to deal with school, their families, and the strange goings on in Pine Box, Texas. All in all, I really do think this is very nicely presented. Really cool stuff here. Also, although there seems to be a little bit of a disconnect between the core rules section, which is giving us our various different abilities, feats, hindrances, so forth, and the actual adventure itself. Because to be honest, I thought coming into this that Pine Box, Texas Middle School was going to be horror, and it is focused on horror, urban horror. But the adventure itself is kind of all over the place, which is fine. I was just very surprised by that. So the core plot point campaign that's in this core book has mad scientists, it's got robots, it's got a Freaky Friday thing going on. There's all different stuff going on in this adventure. Almost feels like everything and the kitchen sink. Like I said, robots. So once again, I was kind of surprised by this. One thing I think is cool with this plot point campaign is it actually takes the player characters from sixth grade all the way through eighth grade. So once again, there's a good amount of adventuring taking place in the campaign. You also get Savage Tales, which are short little adventures or adventure nuggets that you can also plug on into the ongoing plot point campaign. So, all in all, lots of adventuring in this core book. I was really impressed by that because a lot of times you get a core book, and once again, all you get is a little introductory tale that introduces you to the setting and takes one or two sessions to wrap up. Not the case here. You also get a bestiary with the various different creatures that are featured as well. So that is the core book. And then lastly, we have got the adventure booklet. So this has two adventures in it. And I have to say, these are more horror themed than the overall plot point campaign. So I do like these tales. The Curse of Wilson Quarry, as well as Dark Rites of the Yellow Woman. In fact, I like the Dark Rites of the Yellow Woman adventure the best out of this. I think with the right game master that it would probably be the scariest of the bunch. But all in all, production quality throughout is excellent, really nicely done as far as this box set. So just taking a peek through to kind of give you an idea of what you find inside the box set. Let's swing on over to the other camera so I can share some final thoughts and provide a review score for Pine Box, Texas Middle School's box set. I like this box set overall. I think it's jam-packed with goodies. I love the fact that you've got plenty of adventuring at your fingertips. So that's very cool. The pawns are nice and thick. The bennies, as we've come to expect from Pinnacle Entertainment Group, are really nice, nice and heavy. They feel like poker chips in your hands. So all in all, production quality, top notch. As far as the core book itself, I like the character creation and the setting info. I think it's really nicely done and it's not redundant. So we got a lot of stuff that's kind of new to Savage Worlds Adventure Edition, at least from what I've seen of releases for Savage Worlds Adventure Edition. So I like that quite a bit. I also like the fact that you don't have to take it easy on the players and their player characters, unlike some kids on bikes sort of role playing games that are out there. What I did find kind of strange, though, is the character creation and the setting info kind of leads you to think this is more serious, sort of a Super 8 or maybe Stranger Things, right? And then the adventure, the plot point campaign that's included is a lot more Goonies. And there's a lot of kind of gonzo stuff going on with robots and mad scientists and creatures that aren't necessarily from a horror genre. So I was kind of surprised by that. Now, of course, I know a lot of folks out there, they're going to have a blast playing that. But once again, I thought it felt like a little bit of a disconnect. Now, the two adventures that do come with the Game Master screen, those are more urban horror adventures. And honestly, I did like those both a little bit more than the Plot Point campaign. Sadly, there is no action card deck. I would have liked to have seen that. I always like to see those in the box sets, but unfortunately, we don't get one in this. All in all, I do like the box set quite a bit. Certainly do recommend it. So, on a scale of 0 to 10, I give Pinebox Texas Middle School's box set a 7.5 out of 10. I think if you're into that whole kids on bikes sort of trope and you're looking for a more modern version of it, by all means, this should be on your radar. All right, that's it for this time out. If you liked the video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell. It'll not only let you know when I share videos such as this review, it'll also inform you when my live stream, the Gaming Gang Dispatch, airs Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings right here on YouTube at 7 p.m. Central. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you're not going to find here on YouTube. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. Happy holidays, everybody. And until I see you next time, I certainly hope all of you get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.